Aloha and welcome to the Art of Life. My name is Willow Chang and I'm delighted that you're here to join us today. My apologies in advance. For last week, I had a bout of very horrible food poisoning. I'm glad to be back in the saddle, back to join the living here, and to celebrate my favorite month, and I think my guest's favorite month as well. I am delighted and honored to have the one, the only, and the inimitable DJ Nocturna.
Thank you, Willow.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's really an honor to be here.
Absolutely. Now, as with all of my guests, I like to disclose that, well, I know these people in real life, and that's the joy of having a show like this, is it gives me an opportunity to share some of the fantastic people who make Hawaii such an interesting place with you here in Hawaii, and for those of you who are not in Hawaii watching the show. And I have known DJ Nocturna, I'm going to carbon date myself here, for over, I think about 25 years.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
That is a long time. I mean, we're talking like the Stone Ages, my friends. This is before Google and internet. This is when you actually would buy records in record stores. It was a totally different universe. And DJ Nocturna has committed her life to the arts, to evoking the duende, to creating community here in Hawaii for those of us who do like to wear black and who like to investigate and delve a little deeper into the romantic side of life. So one of the things I think that would be great for us to discuss is the Gothic subculture and what we feel that entails and defines. And there's many subsets, so that's something I think that's really interesting, is that with any genre or subculture, there might be like a core or a nucleus, but then as time moves on, these things start to morph into other subsets, including, say, some people would say there's an overlap with steampunk, and then there's an overlap with industrial music, and there's an overlap with, my goodness, the S&M community and all of these other things. So it's no longer just you put on a black trench coat and you're a Gothic person. It's many different things. So with that in mind, let's do a little time travel.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the 80s.
The 80s,
and
my favorite.
Let me know a little bit about how you came to Hawaii. If I recall, you're originally from Guam.
That's right. I came here for for college at UH, 1987. And I remember meeting you at that year, actually. I remember going to you remember the Cult concert at the Sheraton? I remember that very well. I think it was September or October of that year.
At the Sheraton, yeah.
And then that was where everybody was hanging out. And I found out about that concert by going to the Jello Biafra, which was, I think, a month prior to that, somewhere
Day
at UH.
Kennedy's at UH,
Yeah. And I think I don't know if you were there, but
I was there.
It's one of those things you kind of remember. So that's how I came here.
I think what's really interesting is that these people are still active, right? So it's not just the community leaders like yourself, but the artists themselves, they're still involved, and there's a great deal of awareness and even political messages that are in the music and what they do. And so I always kind of took umbrage when people were dismissive of music or pop culture in general, because it's very easy to say, oh, this is just about a hairband, or this is just about a look, there's no substance. But it's completely the opposite, I think, in the Gothic and even in the punk cultures, is that there's always a message. There's always something that's very unique, whether it's a continuity or a message. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the Gothic culture, as it was, I was raised, I grew up in the 80s Gothic culture. It's a little different from today, I would think. What's called death rock, that once upon a time. And it's all about being an individual, individuality. They stress, just, so what if you want to wear black, and it doesn't mean you're depressed, it doesn't mean any of that kind of thing. And I think that's where I always believed in that. I was creative. I'm still creative. I still see myself as, DJ Nocturna, not as the Gothic person, but more like an individual. I wear black. It doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean I want to kill myself or those kind of things. And that's sometimes a misconception that the scene.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that was troubling about 10 years ago, maybe a little more than that, was Columbine. Anytime there's a large violent incident with young people, or anybody for that matter, it's clearly a tragedy. But something that was so troubling to me is that because these two individuals chose to wear trench coats, the media early on picked up on this and they labeled them as goths. And the whole Gothic culture kind of got tarred and feathered with this idea that they're violent, and if you wear a trench coat, you're going to pick up an AK-47, you're going to blow away your classmates. And I just thought, goodness, journalists, do a little more research. I mean, it couldn't be farther from the truth.
I know. I mean, people were black even back in the Victorian period.
Absolutely.
They weren't labeled goth before. You know, Edgar Allan Poe, if he was alive today, he'll probably be seen as goth.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
But he's not actually God. That's why I'm saying, you know, people are just individuals. And it's just funny how they're taken that way, you know, because of that, I guess, the way they're portrayed, you know, because they're weird into people's eyes, you know,
yeah.
a little different.
So I think one of the things that's kind of a interesting development in the 21st century is the rise of, I say this with affection because I define myself as this, but the rise of the nerd, or the rise of the underdog. So when you see things like comic book culture and anime and zombies and Tim Burton films and all of these things, the rise of the individual, the downtrodden, the misunderstood, and also awareness about bullying that's kind of come to the forefront. I was wondering, how do you see that any of these things, those are a lot of different topics, but how do you see the Gothic culture either benefiting from this dynamic, or how do you think that the scene has changed maybe now that everyone is letting their freak flag fly?
I think Hollywood has, you know, you know, made these things more popular now.
Yeah.
You know, they became more accepting. Because, you know, let's say vampire movies, you know,
right.
They've been around for centuries. I mean, even, you know, decades, you know, with films like Nosferatu in the 1920s. And back then, too, they were like, wow, that's a strange black and white film, German film. It was weird, you know.
Can we get an image here?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't have the teeth, but, you know, I didn't wear it today, but yeah. So, you know, it's kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
So I think now it's a lot more accepting, especially with, like I said, you know, with zombies especially. Now there's all these zombie things every October we have the zombie walks all over the place, right?
Right.
And just I think Hollywood really you know, broke kind of like the barrier. I think they were a big help in that way.
Now I'm going to say something that might ruffle a few feathers, not the ones on my head, but you know, I personally, I'm not really a fan of the zombie culture, the zombie subculture. I know it's very prominent. I mean, hello, when Sprint has a commercial featuring a zombie, I think has jumped the shark, as they say. Only reason being is that it's not that I'm totally uptight, but I feel like that the zombie is a manifestation of the undead, but also perhaps the unaware and the unthinking. So thinking of it from a metaphysical standpoint, I feel like it's very telling that we've shifted gears from vampiric energy and archetypes, and now we've transitioned into zombies, and we're getting into the realm of genetically modified organisms known as GMOs, and people perhaps living alternate identities or lives online, or things like that. Do you think that there's any correlation between the social mores going on and the worries of the world and the popularity of zombies?
I think zombies have become really popular now because I think it's this you know, the culture, the society.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, look what's happening now with all the crazy stuff in the world that's happening, right? People are just like zombies. They just want to. They feel dead. They feel lifeless.
Right.
I think that has a lot to do with it. Yeah.
Agreed.
And you know, and of course, I'm well, I'm not going to say if I'm a zombie fan because I'll betray my vampire nation. So we'll just leave it like that. But, you know, of course, vampires rule the world.
Very interesting. So I would like to segue into vampires because here in Hawaii you have such a true, clear-cut following because you've created community for people who are vampire enthusiasts. So take us down memory lane, because you have two events now. You have the Count Dracula competition, or I'm not sure if we would call it a competition. That's for the gentlemen. And we have Miss Vamp, which not only is a competition, but has blossomed into a reality show and meet and greets, and it's much more extensive. It's not simply a one-off and a one-day or a one-night adventure. It's become a real lifestyle. Tell us a bit about this.
Yeah, so Miss Vamp Hawaii was created in 2010. Okay, it began in a little club called The Venue. Little club. It was in there. It was packed. Even KHON came by, and we were in the evening news.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And then so we Lana and I decided to take it to a higher level, and we brought into the Hawaii Theater the following year because we wanted to expand and to grow. You leave something in a small place, it'll never grow. I mean, you already built a club. So we took it to, and it would be appropriate there because it is a theater.
Yeah.
And that's where vampires belong, in this old historic theater called the Hawaii Theater. So we had it there. So now we're going to our 4th year. We just finished it last year. Last month. So that already took place, and we got a winner, Honey Chung, and it was amazing. It was an amazing event. So that's Miss Vamp, and then we've got Count Dracula, which after the first Miss Vamp in 2010. So people go, hey, what about the guys?
Yeah.
I go, yeah, of course we got to have the guys. Then they go, how about Mr. Dracula? Oh, no, we can't call it Mr. Dracula. We got to call it, because he's really a count, not a Mr.
Right, right.
So that's when we decided to call it Count Dracula Hawaii.
Excellent. So I've actually had the pleasure of attending some of these events. They're very well produced, and they're very, very beautiful. And there is a tremendous level of commitment from all of the contestants. I mean, this is not something that you decide to do on the fly and you just show up and you stumble into the venue and just roll the dice. I mean, people do some serious preparation, and you can follow these things on Facebook. They're talking about making props, and they're doing training, and they're practicing with a whip or what have you, learning songs. Exactly. So take us through the competition, because this is not simply a beauty pageant. This is really about the embodiment of what makes somebody worthy for the title. So you have several areas where they compete.
Yeah, so Miss Vamp is a real beauty pageant. It is not a Halloween event. It is a real pageant. So we start out with, they have a talent competition, they have a Q&A, just like a typical pageant with all those things. But what we have a little different is we have a lingerie competition, which is called the moon bathing competition, because vampires don't go to the beach. They don't go in the sun. So it's a lingerie competition. It's called moon bathing. We have a big moon on the stage of the Hawaii Theater. And that's basically the competition. They're crowned. They have a sash. They have a really cute what do you call it, trophy. Right. And there's different categories. There's Miss Vamp Hawaii 2000, whatever the year is, and then we've got first runner-up, second runner-up. We have best costumes, because they all very much very talented women who take a lot of time and effort to make beautiful gowns and costumes. Right. I mean, you've got to see the pictures. They're just beautiful. And
it runs everything from vinyl and fetish wear to Belle Epoque and corsets and ball gowns.
You name it. Anime, steampunk.
I'm very glad that I'm not a judge. I think that would be a very challenging position to be in, because when I've seen the photos and the contestants, it's like, my gosh, where do you start? I mean, and how can you even begin to compare the two? There's so much variety and so much diversity, so my hat's off to the judges.
Yeah, no, it's very challenging. I mean, it's really difficult. I know it's very hard for them to make a choice, and sometimes I always get depressed after the pageant, because I always feel for the rest of the girls. Because I know they all work really hard, But the pageant is really for, we take the concept of vampires, the eternal, eternity, eternal life, ageless, timeless, because the pageant it invites all women to participate in this pageant. Right. And women who may not necessarily belong or feel they belong in the traditional pageant.
So in this regard, are there in a lot of what we'll call traditional pageants for women, there's usually age discrepancies and there's a lot of rules and stipulations. I mean, most of them you have to be unmarried, you have to have not bore children.
There's no rules in this one.
That's fantastic.
That's what makes it unique in its own way, because you don't have to be 18 to 25.
Right.
You could be, so we have different ages competing at one time, you know. So we've got a 19-year-old girl, we've got somebody in their late 30s, early 40s, you know. Yeah, so, you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. We also believe that. So we also got different body types. We have the real slim girl. We have a woman that's, you know,
voluptuous. Zaftig. I love that word.
Because everybody's beautiful in their own way. And that's really what the pageant is about. And so that's really what the concept of vampires, you know, when you say vampire. Of course, it's themed with a vampire theme. So it has a little dark flair to it, you know.
Right. Now, Hawaii is pretty much known for its tolerance as well as its diversity. But that being said, you know, people are also developing more of a comfort level of speaking up and speaking their mind. I'm curious, do we have any equivalent to the Westboro Baptist community? Has there been a lot of misconceptions or people upset that you're having this and they say this is the dark arts or these are devil-related things or this is dangerous? So it's been very positive. Excellent.
You know, we never alluded to anything like that. It's basically vampires. It's about women with a vampire theme.
Right.
You know? And so, no.
Excellent. Excellent. Now you have some
yeah, and you know, I have
here.
something for you. So, you know, I've always wanted to give this to you because I know. So this is a little thing because we believe that vampires rule the world. It's a sticker for your car.
Pretty darn fabulous, my friends.
Okay. And then we've got, you know, patches.
Oh,
so
these are so cool.
Yeah, so this one here is actually the first time we moved it to the Hawaii Theater. So that's a collectible.
This is awesome. I'm curious, are these items available for purchase for our fans out there?
You can go on DJ Nocturna and Lana.com.
You gotta have at least one.
Or MissVampHawaii.com.
Awesome.
And then this one is a keychain also, which has a little bit of logo in it.
Girl, I'm so impressed. Where's my commemorative mouse pad?
It's coming your way.
Coming your way. This is really beautiful as well. I don't know if you can see the detail, but there's a beautiful, thinly spindled, it's almost like a castle. It looks like a castle to me, and it says Miss Vamp Hawaii. And it is timeless because the year is not indicated, so you will be eternal through your keychain, at least.
That's right.
And the internet, because these interviews last forever. Yay!
And this bag, and I have a shirt for you here, which I'm not going to do Miss Vamp, but I wanted to give this to you. But here, let me give you this shirt. This bag here it says Vampires Rule the World.
That is so cool.
And this is relating to the future of Miss Vamp, which I can tell you later. But yeah, anyway. And then this shirt, I decided, you know, this is Camera Obscura, and I wanted to give this to you because you're in here. You're actually in here.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, these are Willow has performed for me, has performed in some of my events, and I have her name here. So this is like a club tour.
Oh, that's so awesome.
So there's like a club tour dates thing.
I am very honored. And now, and since we're going to segue into this, because I didn't know this would be here, but you can see some of that footage up on YouTube at Willow Chang. So I have some of the various masked balls and even the Count Dracula. So I have at least 3 performances up there, and you can see.
Elixir of Love, that was the first Venetian masked ball that was held at the Diamond Head Grill. Yeah, that was. Would you perform beautifully?
Oh, that was awesome. You know, I feel like you were just on the cusp. You know, that's the thing I really love about you is that you have really like a sixth sense of knowing right when to launch something. You are committed to it and you're consistent about it, but you know to the right time to unveil something. We're going to take a short break, but when you come back...
you know, a lot has to do with Lana too. Lana Saldana is a big part of
We need to take a break, but let's talk about Miss Lana because there's always a dynamic duo with these things. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for joining us. This is The Art of Life. We'll be back in a few moments. Aloha.
We're full of useless segues here on ThinkTech Hawaii. You might be part of it. Maybe you'll catch something. Right. ThinkTech Hawaii is a non-communicable communication source. Don't get too close to your screen. You might be infected. ThinkTech.
Aloha and welcome back if you're just joining us. This is The Art of Life and I'm your host, Willow Chang, also known as Willow Chang Aleon, and I am delighted to have our esteemed guest, DJ Nocturna, sharing and warming the seat here. And we are warm here in our black, if you must know, between these hot lights and this hot October weather we're having. But before we took the break, you were mentioning your partner in crime.
Oh, yeah.
And tell us a little bit about Miss Lana, because I'm always fascinated, and I think that this is something important for people to consider. One of the things I like to discuss is the artistic process, and it really is a process. So whether it's something that you're doing consistently by yourself, or if you're working in tandem with a partner, when you look at a lot of amazing artists, whether it's Vincent Minnelli and Judy Garland, or Salvador Dali and his wife, I mean, time will show us that every great idea usually has someone behind the scenes or a cohort, and Lana works with you extensively on your projects.
She does. I first met her, I was spinning for Acid Wash.
Right.
It was a special night actually, it was the homecoming. I don't know if you know, Acid Wash is an 80s night back in the day. So I was spinning for the homecoming. It was a Saturday night. It was one of the Saturdays. It's usually on a Wednesday, and luckily it was on a Saturday. I was spinning in there, and then she walks in, and then she goes, "Wow, I love this music. I love this music," and that's how I met her. After I DJ'd, I talked to her a little bit, and she goes, "Oh, I'm a performer. I'm a singer, songwriter." Yeah. Okay, and I said, well, "Would you like to perform for one of my events?" And then she said, "Well, what is it about?" And then so, of course, and then after that, I didn't talk to her for like I think it was a year. That was a year. A year has passed, and then the year later, I met up with her again, and we decided to. I asked her if she would come on one of my shows for Camera Obscura, and she did. And then that's how we got acquainted again. And she came on my, on the Feast of Friends, and ever since then, we've been collaborating with different events like the Venetian Mass Ball. We do the Miss Band Hawaii, Count Dracula Hawaii, and different things. I have to put in my 2 cents here. Surprise. Lana sounds as good as she looks, and she's got this really great, like, smoky, kind of rock star voice. I mean, woo! If you're curious and you want to hear their show, Feast of Friends, this is the things that are being referred to. DJ Nocturna has had an awesome show for many years on K2H, Hawaii's only alternative, the only station that loves you. Got to put a plug in, 90.3 on your FM dial. Playing wonderful music from Gothic music, Gothic, industrial to 80s, dark 80s. Yeah. And tell us when we can hear your show. It's every Saturday from 6 to 9 p.m. And I'm telling you, it's a great time because it's like if you're getting ready to go out. I frequently tune into your show because, it puts you in the mood. It gets you ready to go into the night and find what adventure you have. You've been a guest there many, many times. Yeah. We have. And we also have this we experience something there together. Let's elaborate on that because it's not something that happens with frequency, apparently. Well, like I was telling you earlier, Willow has been, you've been on the show, a few times, and you're like one of the few people, I think only you and Lana and the Monster who have experienced, a spirit. We experienced it together. Don't you remember that time we were on the talking? Headphones? Yeah. We were in the headphones and we heard this thing went through, and then nobody else heard it but you and I. Yeah. And this is something to go in reference of previous show we had with Jeff Gear is that a lot of the foundation of his spooky stories are things that are right here from Hawaii because Hawaii is a very charged place. It has a lot of spirit energy, and those are things that you do not have to be afraid of. I mean, they're just like in The Wizard of Oz. They say, are you a good witch or a bad witch? So some are
unresolved energies who are maybe roaming, and you really have to feel compassion for them and maybe make an offering for them and wish them on their merry way. And some of them are just playful, and some just want you to know that they're out there. And for whatever reason, they like to let me know in their small, subtle ways that they're around. It doesn't necessarily make me scared, but I'm always, just like with the ocean, I'm always very reverent because I want to make sure I don't disrupt the flow of things.
Yeah, well, we have spirits in K2H, but yeah.
Yeah, so K2H is on the University of Manoa campus at Hemingway Hall if you want to check that out and get your Ghostbusters. But, you know, I often think that the spirit world will make an attempt to interact with those who are going to be responsive. So I think if you're open to that, they're going to let you know that they're there.
Yeah, well, I've experienced that several times in the station, you know. But like I said, they're harmless.
Yeah.
You know?
And for those of you who are unaware, I mean, they manifest in different ways, but one of the most classic ways when you're in a place is the sudden feel of a change in temperature. And yes, the naysayers out there, you can roll your eyes and you can chuckle, and I'm okay with that. Not everybody is a believer at this point or in this life, but it's an immediate change. I mean, it feels like the refrigerator or the freezer being open. You can just feel it come through the room. Sometimes you'll see little glares or like someone running across the room, and it's just a blur.
And how they reach out to me is through waves. You know, like sound waves, like we
audio things.
Yeah, audio, and light wave. Yeah.
So if you find that you are encountering these things and they're problematic, there are people who can take care of that. And in Hawaii we've got kapunas who will gladly come and bless your home and take care of those things. So I tread lightly and I take them very seriously, and you can think what you want. I'm not running for office, so. But I wanted to also go into a subject that we both have a great affinity for, and that is the love of the duende, as Lorca has expressed the love of the duende. And I think of it as something that is unfinished and raw, yet completely imbued with emotion of the moment, and sometimes the longing of a saudade, a word that we have from the Portuguese of longing. But how would you define duende, and what does it bring to your life?
Well, everything I do, I would say, has a theme of the duende in every single thing. It is a dark creative inspiration, and that's what Lorca talks about. It is that dark creative passion that I do in every way, and you have it too. Yeah. But it also stems from so many things, from any kind of art form, singing, especially dancing, and you definitely have that duende, in you. It comes from the sole of your feet to the top of your head, that's what he says. So, and that's how I would define it, just my radio show, my events, it has a duende.
I think that an essential component that he didn't necessarily write about, but if I may add that to the discussion again, is the inclusion of whether they are elders or people who have come before you. So I think that you can use the artistic process as a means to channel the ideas and the experiences of others. And it doesn't mean that your artwork is not somehow a manifestation of yourself, but it's so much bigger than that. It becomes a much bigger experience if you allow yourself to be a vessel to channel that duende. And so it's fascinating. It's a type of surrender if you think about it.
Yeah, and I also connect it to music, because every dark sound has duende. You can't have a passionate love song without duende.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this idea, people think that it's all about, oh, you only love the dark side, but it's more about, I think, creating balance. Because if you only have the light, you will never have, the light is the absence of shadow, but there are beautiful things within the shadow. There's beautiful things within the dark or the night, or even if you manifest it as a sadness. Sadness is a representation of loss, it's a representation of love, of experience, it's all of these things.
Yeah, and sometimes being sad, when you reach that point, you actually, it brings out the more creative part about you. You know, when sadness is there.
It also shows that you're in the moment of feeling, because if you're numb, clearly you're not going to feel sadness. You're not going to feel anything, and wouldn't that be terrible?
And you mentioned balance, and that's very true, because you know, Lana is the light in my dark world, so I'm kind of like the darkness in her light world. So
like the sun and the moon.
Right.
I like that.
And very much so.
Excellent. I wanted to discuss the artwork that is behind us, because we usually have a green screen, and don't get me wrong, I love green, but I thought, how can we use this to our advantage to help create a more cohesive mood? So I selected this artwork especially for you. This is a photograph, I don't know if you can see it, but this was taken in San Francisco 3 years ago, and this is at Dolores Mission, in the Mission District, obviously. And that place is just has a beautiful basilica, and behind the basilica and the church there is an old graveyard and this old garden with apples and fruit in various states of decay, and these very old headstones, and there's just so much poetry in that. And this image was one that it somehow just, I thought, this is something that DJ Nocturna would like.
I totally love it, yeah.
And I know that you are a world traveler, and I thought it would be fun to go and maybe rattle off a few of your favorite places that you feel are imbued with the duende or with the Gothic spirit. Maybe your top 5 places that you think everyone should try to see or experience.
Okay, yeah. Well, my first favorite country is England, of course. I always love England.
She's a secret limey.
Maybe I used to be English in my past life, so many times. Yeah. And I love Portugal. Porto, one of the most beautiful places in Portugal. I also love Spain. I love Thailand.
Yeah.
Top 5, right? Thailand, and then I would have to say Italy.
Italy, I like that. There's going to be a lot of stamps in your passport. Think about your top 5 places. We have to take a short break.
We have to know what yours is.
Oh, well, I'll tell you after the break.
Okay.
We'll see you in just a few moments.
Okay.
Aloha, I'm Jay Fidel of ThinkTech Hawaii. We have a program with the Hawaii Venture Capital Association on October 24th, Thursday, entitled Newsmorphosis 3 Online. Is our online news media doing its job? We have Jerry Burris for opening remarks, Howard Dykes as moderator, and a blue ribbon panel of journalists to discuss exactly what's happening in online news. Sign up at hvca.org and come on down and see us, network, enjoy the discussion, raise your awareness on ThinkTech at this program. October 24th, we'll see you there. Aloha, I'm Jay Fidel.
Aloha and welcome, and we're here, The Art of Life. If you're just joining us, we have the wonderful DJ Nocturna sharing time with us and inspiration. And right before we took the break, the question was top 5 places that have duende, or you feel maybe not necessarily only Gothic culture, but places that kind of stir the soul. So let me see if I remember. I remember Spain. England was number 1. Porto in Portugal. Hold on now. Italy. And I'm trying. Oh, and Thailand. Thailand was the one that was a curveball.
I forgot to mention. I also love Indonesia.
Oh God.
Oh God. It's such an amazing place.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
If you ever have a chance to go to Indonesia, you must go to both the Muslim and the Hindu parts. So you have to go to Java and to Bali, because they're completely different and yet both so very, very beautiful. Yeah. So you wanted to ask me, can I limit it to 5? Well, I'm just going to just speak freely off the top of my head in no particular order. I absolutely love Germany, and I've been very fortunate to go to many parts of Germany, Berlin and Nuremberg and Kronach and little villages, and it's just Munich. It's just fascinating, and there's so many amazing churches, and the culture's very rich and very dark. And shame on me, I was unaware of how extremely Catholic they really are. I mean, in some of these villages, there is nothing open other than church on a Sunday, and that was kind of a foreign experience for me in Hawaii, where we have a lot of 24-hour establishments. I absolutely love Istanbul. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
a sacred place, and to hear the call to prayer from the minarets, and there's such a feast for the eyes, and it's really that juncture where East and West meets, and that's fascinating to me. I love Zurich. Zurich is like a second home, so I get a shout out to Maysoon. And I've seen many different parts of Switzerland as well, and it's beautiful. It's very clean, and it's efficient, and it's delicate. There's a delicate quality about Switzerland that I admire. I also absolutely love Kyoto. And Kyoto, it's like I never experienced temple or shrine burnout. I know some people are like, dude, you've gone to like 10 shrines today, aren't you over it? Never. Never enough. It never gets old. I will light incense and kowtow and light a candle at every single step of the way. And there's a beauty there. I mean, because you have Gion, and you have the old district where you have the maiko and the geisha, and it's very, very beautiful. I think that's 4. Number 5, I'm going to give a shout out for Cairo, because that was the place that planted the seed of the life I live now as an Oriental dancer and a teacher. However, I must say, I always have a very conflicted relationship with Cairo, because it has so many things that are beautiful and so many things that are also troubling. But all of these places, I think, that we've mentioned, they have seeds of antiquity and sacred practice and amazing architecture, and just they're imbued with so much history. Hawaii has its own history. It's a different type of history, but there's something about these places. They're just storybook, right?
I mean, for me, I like England because I love the literature involved, the history, just everything. Yeah, I don't know what it is. There's just something about it. When I first time I stepped foot in England, I knew that I'd been there before.
Yeah.
You know.
I just watched. If you've seen Excalibur, John Borman, nerd alert. So I own my own copy, and I watched it the other night, probably for like my 20th time, and it never gets old. And I discovered this: if you switch the language to French, it's actually much better in French. The delivery of the lines and the dialogue doesn't sound as stilted. I think they did some strange like overdubbing when they did it in English. But my gosh, like the moment you hear like Wagner, Ring Cycle, and Carmina Burana, and the imagery which borrows so much from Waterhouse and all of these amazing artists, Maxfield Parrish, and these sunsets, and they're riding through on their horses, and the apple blossoms are cascading by. It's fascinating. That whole Arthurian legend, and
that's the reason why I like this country. Just the history behind it, especially
rich.
Like Portugal. Oh gosh, Spain.
Yeah.
I mean, there must be something about that place, to take you back, and
There is. We agree. It's our favorite season. Do you have special plans for Halloween? Or is it because, as we like to say, every day is Halloween? Does Halloween take on a different feel? Is it a day of rest for you? Or do you have to work? Or do you get to enjoy the season?
I'm going to be actually in San Francisco around the holiday season, just visiting family and taking care of some stuff,
Fantastic. Another fabulous city.
Yeah, another beautiful place. Great food.
Indeed. I'm curious, how do you think the scene has changed in Hawaii? You've been involved in a long time. You've seen lots of clubs open and come and go, and different trends.
Yeah, look, back in the 80s, the time that we were hanging out, there was it was so different. Clubs were in Waikiki, right? But there was a Wave,
Limelight, Pink Cadillac, Sub Club,
all in that one area, and everybody hung out there. If you remember, they all sat on the sidewalk.
Odyssey,
I was drinking my big gulp, sitting on the sidewalk. I mean, people would never think I would never do that now.
Yeah.
But that's what we did back in those days, and then now it moved to a little bit to Chinatown, right?
Yeah.
And it's a little different. If the scene is different, the name changed. It wasn't called Goth before either.
I think also there were actually clubs, whereas now it's restaurants that turn over and they sponsor or have thematic nights. So it's a little different emphasis there as well.
Yeah, and then, of course the genre of music has changed a little bit. It's they have more like EBM, a little bit more of a different style of music. For that culture compared to how it was. We got the vinyl playing, the Jesus and Mary Chain,
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sisters of Mercy and that
The
kind of-
ministry.
Yeah.
Ow.
But yeah.
And if you really want to take it slow, some Cocteau twins, it's
Oh,
like,
yeah,
how do we
yeah.
dance to this?
Yeah, yeah.
Pick the flower.
Yeah, yeah. And you've danced to that.
It's
You dance
true.
beautifully to
It's
that.
true. Guilty, guilty. I'm curious also, because we're ThinkTech Hawaii, how has, can be quick, but technology, how has it benefited your community? Do you find that people are able to get in touch with you from other locales? Does your website drive a lot of traffic? Things like social media with Facebook, or even just DJing. I mean, you mentioned vinyl. I know that some people are using iPods, or they have nights where you just bring in your iPod. How has technology changed the scene for you?
For me, for music, I've always remained the same. I play vinyl and CD.
Yeah.
I don't use any computers. Yeah, I'm pretty old school. But it has changed a lot because I have a website and people, there's social media now is blown. It's like everybody goes on Twitter and Facebook and they find you, which really works for me in many ways. It has helped in so many ways like that. And a lot of people find me through my website. They're coming through and they go, hey, I'm visiting here in Hawaii and I want to know where can I go?
Yeah.
And they always seem to find me for some reason, and that's a good thing.
I couldn't agree more.
I'm sure for you, same, right?
Well,
You've experienced the same thing.
I think also what's interesting is that back in the day, I think people were just on a first name basis. I mean, people will say, oh, her name is Catherine, what's her last name? And shame on me, I have no idea. But because I'm named after a tree, it's a little easier to find me. But I have found that Facebook's been pretty groovy because I'll hear from somebody I used to hang out with when I was 14 and had lots of funny haircuts, and it's easier for them to find me, and it's fascinating. Do now they're married and they have kids, and they'll come back to visit Hawaii, maybe have coffee, and I think it's a wonderful thing. But I do kind of miss the face-to-face contact of sitting on the street having a big gulp or whatever and talking story.
Now everybody has a cell phone, so they're like you're texting you while you're like going somewhere, and you could just find, oh, I'm headed that way, you want to go meet me? I mean, back then they find you and they find you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's many, but for me, of course, if a lot of my classmates, they don't know who DJ Nocturna is, so they will never find me.
Yeah. Which may not be a bad thing.
Yeah, maybe that's probably a good thing.
We don't have much time, but I wanted to ask you what's in the crystal ball for you in the future with Miss Vamp and for DJ Nocturna, and what would you like to share with us?
Yeah, so, we just had our pageant last week, so of course we're going to wait to the next year, so if anybody wants to run for Miss Vamp, they can always log on to, DJ Nocturna and lana.com, or they can email me, djnocturna@gmail.com. We're actually looking at doing Miss Vamp Hawaii in California and Nevada.
That's
so
awesome.
That's in the future.
I had a feeling a franchise was in the makes. I think that time has come.
Yeah, and we have the reality show which people can tune in this every Saturday
on K5?
K5, Channel 5 at 10:30 p.m. We have the hour footage this coming Saturday, which is a 1 hour edited footage of the pageant.
Excellent.
And I want to just do a big shout out to Pazana Saldania for helping us out with the editing.
Wow.
And that's Lana's daughter, who's a very brilliant, talented young lady. And also to Lana, who's been a big inspiration and a big help and just everything to get this thing going as well. And of course, everybody that's been involved. There's so many people today, photographers, everybody.
You've always been so generous with not only creating community, but nurturing that community. You're very, very loyal. I would think that you were a Taurus, even though that I knew that you aren't. But that's something I really respect in you, is that you have nurtured so many people, whether it's the photographers, the people who run the contests, the various dancers and singers and artists who all are a part of this amazing event. And you're so generous by creating these venues for us to share what we love. So thank you.
Well, I'm still waiting for something. Though. I'm waiting for you to run for Miss Vamp.
Oh my goodness.
I will. The beautiful Willow Chang one day needs to run. One day.
Oh my goodness. I will just have to say that I profess my phobia of competitions. I mean, even though I've worn funny hats and I've done all kinds of crazy things, the older I get, I feel much more comfortable either entertaining or applauding those on the stage. But I am so honored that you would want me to run.
You're very, very talented and beautiful.
Thank you so much.
I mean, you got your talent already.
I know. and
and your wit. You answer the Q&A with no problem.
And the arrows would be slung this way.
And you've got the moon bathing right there.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know how much of that body needs to be seen on stage, but you'll flatter me, and flattery will get you everywhere. Oh, my goodness. Most excellent. Well, I think that almost wraps it up. I could actually talk to you all day.
Yeah, same here.
But you know what? I will promise you this. We're going to have you on again because there's so much more to explore.
Before we go, can I give this to you as well?
Absolutely. It's right here under the table.
So this is another thing I wanted to give to you. You know, as you know, you're a big fan of the 80s. So I wanted to give you this.
I'm a child of the 80s.
Yeah, this is, you know, Andy Rourke of the Smiths. He came here last year. I brought him down. We brought him down, and you know, some of these posters are collectibles, you know, concert posters. So
really awesome. And you know what?
This was done by Chroma Code, who made this beautiful sort of poster, like, you know.
It is beautiful. And for our Smiths fans, Morrissey just came out with an autobiography.
Oh yeah,
it's true. That, yeah. So we've run out of time, but I will always have time for you, DJ Nocturna.
No,
thank you so much for having us. And I wish you every joy and every success and every rich duende in your life.
To you.
To everyone out there, please join us again Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m. This is The Art of Life. My name is Willow Chang, and it's always such an honor to spend this time with you. Aloha.
Thank you.